The Where Our Minds Wander podcast may contain sensitive content and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow wanderers, to the places our minds wander.
The house at the end of the dirt road, where disembodied voices whisper and strange sounds make the living shiver.
Where shadows lurk at the edge of the woods, just outside your back door. And mysterious lights speed beyond reason across the clear night sky.
Odd events throughout time that lead you down the rabbit hole.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Where Our Minds Wander. Hello and welcome to Where Our Minds Wander, all you fellow wanderers. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody.
So for all of you fellow wanderers out there that caught our Halloween episode from 2023, then you heard us share some of the creepy urban legends that we put together from around the country. Basically, we found 13 creepy urban legends, and then Beth rewrote each one of them with her own spin on them. One of the stories, which Beth titled The Quarter, was based on the urban legend of the ghost boy of Clinton Road in Passaic County, New Jersey.
And tonight for our episode, we have a really, really good one planned for you. It's going to be all about Clinton Road and all of the paranormal stuff that happens there.
Yeah, there's a lot of creepy and unexplainable and just mind-boggling events that take place there.
On this tiny little stretch of 10-mile road.
I know, it's not that long.
No,
But it's packed full.
It is. So, the legend of the ghost boy of Clinton Road goes that once upon a time, and this is any time between the 1800s to the early 1900s, a young boy died near Dead Man's Curve. How he died is up for debate. Some say that he fell off the bridge, or he drowned in the water while he was trying to retrieve a ball. Later versions say that he was hit by a car. But regardless, if you stand on the bridge and drop a quarter into the water, that quarter will come back to you. Some versions say that the quarter will reappear right at your feet. Others say that if you look down in the water, you'll see a reflection of the drowned boy's face staring back at you before your quarter mysteriously reappears.
Well, at that point, I don't think I'd even care about the quarter. I'd be out of there. He can keep it.
You sound like the peddler from last week's episode when we did the Baldoon mystery when his silver went missing, and he was like, you know what?
That's enough.
If you kids find it, you keep it. Now, to be fair, there is more than one bridge on Clinton Road, but the ghost boy is said to haunt the one closest to Dead Man's Curve. And apparently, dozens of people have tried to summon him because that part of the river is filled with quarters. There are several first-hand accounts on the Weird New Jersey website from people who have tried it, like Dina from West Milford. She wrote, quote, "My friends and I decided to find out for ourselves what is true and what is not. We went to the bridge and threw a quarter off. Not but a minute later, you hear the bloop as if you dropped the quarter in again. The water filled with ripples and a child's reflection appeared. I flew back to the car. That scared all of us." End quote. Or one anonymous poster who wrote, quote, "Yesterday at 8 p.m., me and my friend Mike were going to a movie at the drive-in." Now, I love how The person who wrote in wanted to remain anonymous, but they called out their friend Mike by name.
Right. Well, at least he didn't include his last name.
This is true.
That would have been even worse.
We took Clinton Road. We stopped on the bridge, and he told me all the stories about the boy being killed and all. So I threw a quarter off the edge, and we drove away. On the way home at 11:30, we passed over the bridge and stopped because Mike wanted to point out the kid's name on the side of the bridge. Just when he said the kid's name, a quarter, or something metal, was thrown hard against the window of the car. We were shocked for a minute, but then we drove away. I am not going on that road for a long time." End quote. But there's also variations, like this one that came from another anonymous contributor. I went up to Clinton Road with 2 friends of mine. The really weird legend is that of the little boy. The story I heard was that a little boy was hit by a car and killed on the bridge when he went to pick up a quarter he saw on the ground. The legend is that if you get out of your car and stand on the bridge, you will see a quarter drop. And if you bend down to pick it up, the little boy will push you into the lake to save you from being hit by the car.
I think that's my favorite version.
I do like that one. I mean, it's sad that in all of them a little boy has to die, but at least in this one he's looking out for people and not trying to push them into the water to harm them. So, obviously, this is one of those times where the facts about the bridge have changed over time. We honestly don't know if there ever really was a little boy who died near Dead Man's Curve. But the weird stories about paranormal encounters with the ghost boy are just the beginning. Because, as it turns out, Clinton Road is considered the scariest road in the entire state of New Jersey, and not just because of the little ghost boy. So, as I'd said earlier, tonight we're going to tell you all about the very strange things people have encountered along that road for decades. But before we really get into the paranormal stuff, I have to say that Clinton Road itself is one of those places that has taken on a life of its own, because the rumors, the myths, and the legends have been repeated so often that it's really hard to separate fact from fiction. But we promise we are going to do our best to tell the actual history, debunk some of the misconceptions, and still share a bunch of personal experiences many, many people have claimed to have had all along the 10-mile stretch of Clinton Road.
Well, I think when we're on our way to Pennsylvania, we really need to stop off in New Jersey because it's on the way, and perhaps we can go see for ourselves.
We could. Just drive very slowly and not at night.
And bring a pocket full of quarters.
Or not. So Clinton Road is a 2-lane road that runs from Route 23 near Newfoundland, New Jersey, for about 10 miles north to Greenwood Lake. The road is bordered on both sides by dense forest, with trees that create a canopy over the road in certain places. It's also very windy, with one major curve that we've already mentioned, Dead Man's Curve. The majority of the road is in the town of West Milford, but since it's not part of the New Jersey County road system, it isn't always well maintained. There's also a stoplight at the intersection of Clinton Road and Route 23 that allegedly stays red for almost 5 minutes. Originally, what is now the town of West Milford was once Lenape land. According to the West Milford Messenger.com, When the Dutch, English, and French settlers moved into Lenape lands during the 1700s, both sides were rather violent towards each other. The interactions between the settlers and the Lenape in the West Milford area was relatively peaceful in comparison. Initially, the settlers named the area New Barbados when it was still part of Essex County prior to 1693. But both the name of the area and the name of the county was changed several times. The town name changed from New Barbados to Saddle River and then to Franklin and Pompton before finally being named West Milford in 1834. The county had changed names 3 times before becoming Passaic County in 1837. According to the Sanctuary blog, in 1826, a man named William Jackson purchased 1,000 acres bordering Clinton Road. That included 2 ponds and waterfalls. He figured it was the perfect spot for an ironworks, a sawmill, and a gristmill. Jackson wasn't able to get it all built, though, before he ended up having to sell the land to someone else, who then sold it right away to business partners John Winslow and Freeman Wood. Winslow and Wood operated Jackson's ironworks under the name the Clinton Ironworks for 3 years, beginning in 1833. Now, as you can imagine, it took a lot of wood to keep the massive furnace going, and by 1836, the men had pretty much depleted their resources. But the forge itself managed to run for another 15 years or so, off and on, until it was abandoned in 1852. Over time, the forest reclaimed the land, and the furnace became nothing but ruins, which comes into play later. In 1905, wealthy banker and railroad executive Richard James Cross decided West Milford was the perfect spot for a summer home, despite any rumors he might have heard about the area being a little bit creepy. In fact, that same year, local historian and genealogist J. Percy Crayon wrote that the woods beyond the Clinton furnace were, quote, infested with bands of robbers and counterfeiters, to say nothing of the witches that held their nightly dances and carousels at Green Island, and the ghosts that then made their appearance in such frightful forms. Maybe Cross didn't know the area's reputation because he bought 365 acres of woods, farmlands, and fields, as well as the 77-acre Hanks Pond. His stone summer house, which resembled a Tudor-style castle, cost $1.5 million to build back in 1905, which today would be about $39.4 million. According to NorthJersey.com, there was also a boathouse, some tennis courts, a guest cottage, an ice house, a carriage house, a farmhouse, and separate barns for the horses and cattle.
So he had quite the spread.
His summer home was quite fancy. Cross called his summer estate Bearfort House, and it had all the amenities a wealthy family could possibly want, including a staff of 12 men whose only job was to chop the wood for the 40 fireplaces. Other staff made sure the private gas plant was running smoothly, so the family had constant gas lighting. They also enjoyed a fully staffed bakery right on site. Cross only got to enjoy his castle for a few years, though, before he died in 1917. And his wife actually sold it pretty quickly to the city of Newark for just $155,000.
That's incredible. You know what I've noticed that's really interesting is that a lot of the stories that we go into, these wealthy men build these huge, lavish homes, and then it seems like they always die a couple years after they're completed or they're not even completed. And then the wife is left with them.
Yeah, that's true. And they've been saying it forever, right? That once you retire, you don't live very long,
right?
You know, for a lot of these people, especially when they were such driven businessmen.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, perhaps he should have been out there chopping the wood with these guys. 40 fireplaces. That's a massive amount of wood.
I know. Well, once Mrs. Cross sold the castle, it was now the property of the Pequannock watershed. And it was said that the workers stripped the castle of everything that they deemed valuable, including the staircases and the doorknobs, so it could be repurposed into other building projects. And there was a site that I went to that said like where all the different pieces went into all the different homes in the area, but that's a tangent. So in 1940, the remaining outbuildings, just the carriage shop and the horse stables, were lost in a fire. And both local teenagers and visiting hikers used the castle ruins for parties, which included spray painting what was left of the stone and concrete walls. What remained of the castle, which was very little by that point, was demolished in 1988. But that didn't stop the rumors from swirling about horrible things taking place at Cross's castle over the years. Everything from KKK meetings to satanic rituals. And some of those rumors have been backed up by people's recollections of the castle on the Weird New Jersey website. So, although he didn't give a year, contributor Sly C. wrote, quote, "Two friends, brothers, who I will call John and Bill, regularly took excursions through areas of West Milford known for their legends. They were driving down Clinton Road. Both noticed a bonfire near Cross Castle. As they drew closer, they saw a group of people dressed in robes around a bonfire. They could make out the leader, who was dressed in typical KKK regalia. One of the members of this meeting spotted them and called out to stay where they were. Of course, John and Bill took off to their car and left. Their hooded friends got into their vehicles and began chasing them. John and Bill said that they were wielding shotguns." But another poster named Scott shared an experience that he had that he believes proves that satanic rituals were being performed at the castle ruins. He wrote, quote, "I had a friend who lived near Clinton Road. He used to take me on May Day and Halloween's Eve to spy on Wiccans practicing in the areas near his house. It was a nice afternoon in 1977. We decided to get our packs, a tent, and a rifle to spend the night up in the woods. I took a journal along with me. When we came upon the castle, we were amazed, as always, at how it stood out in the woods. We entered it and were shocked to learn that someone had put up 2 huge boards with words spelled out in red paint." Now, Scott goes on to say that the message he copied down in his journal turned out to be a direct quote from Anton LaVey, who just happens to be the head leader of the Church of Satan. So, I'm honestly not sure if that proves that there were actual rituals going on, or whether it was just some vandal who happened to know some Anton LaVey quotes. But I can totally see how that would make somebody feel uneasy.
Right, or it could have been just somebody posting this to make it look like it's an evil, scary place to go, and they're just trying to ward off other people from going there. Perhaps they just wanted to kind of keep it to themselves a bit.
Right. And what I also found interesting about what he had said was that he equated Wiccans with Satanists, which is not the same thing.
Not at all. And I can see, it'd be something that I would do when I was young, is just to scare the hell out of people.
Right. You found it. It's cool. You want to hang out there. You want everybody else to stay away.
Yeah.
So you put something scary.
Stay out of my playground.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, other accounts do seem to back up the idea that satanic rituals were being practiced at the castle. One contributor to WeirdNewJersey.com said that while he was working in the ER at the Chilton Hospital, a young woman was brought in with third-degree burns on her legs. She had been found walking down Route 23 near Clinton Road, and she was on heroin at the time, and she claimed she was a witch. The story was that she had been with a bunch of people at the castle who were doing some sort of ritual, and they threw her into the bonfire. During her stay at the hospital, she allegedly screamed things like, "My powers are too strong for you," and "I'm going to crawl into your mind." So, on one hand, that story's a sad reflection of what heroin can do to somebody's mind. But on the other hand, you can kind of see how an incident like that would solidify the idea that actual satanic cults were meeting at the castle. But there are other stories of different types of encounters at Cross's Castle. RoadrunnerTravel.com mentions things like unexplainable flickering lights and strange echoes that bounce off the walls. There are pockets of cold air that seem to come out of nowhere, and some people have even had sightings of translucent figures weaving in and out of the ruins. The Sanctuary blog mentions people reporting disembodied laughter, low voices talking, and even chanting.
Well, with all the weird stuff that they're doing out there, supposedly, who knows how many tulpas they've created.
That's true. I didn't even think of that. Yeah. Well, I did manage to find a witness's account on the Weird New Jersey website about the chanting, and then a really creepy reaction one of their friends had when they heard it. So, according to a contributor who went by the initials GJR, they said, quote, "After one night of hearing tales, me and 6 others decided to go to the castle. As we got up the dirt road that wound up to the castle, we parked the cars, got out, lit a fire, and drank some beer. I mean, of course."
Well, why not?
Right. After half an hour, we began to hear chanting and chains rattling. One of the girls started to go into a seizure. 3 of us tried to move her to no avail. It was like she was nailed to the rock. Then the chanting stopped. The girl came around, and we all looked at each other like, what the hell is going on here? So, that's creepy.
It's a little disturbing.
It is. But we weren't there, so I would want to take into account that the witness started off by saying that they already knew about all the rumors and they were drinking. So maybe, just maybe, there was some power of suggestion going on. But regardless, I can see how an experience like that would freak you out for a very, very long time.
Yeah, or perhaps they regretted drinking and all that stuff because they did have a perhaps real experience, and it just kind of takes away from it that they had been drinking and stuff.
Right. And if she was having a medical emergency, right, there's got to be some, feelings of...
Or who knows? Perhaps it all did happen.
Oh, absolutely.
There's weird stuff out there. We've both experienced it, and people wouldn't believe it.
True.
Unless they've experienced something like that for themselves. And they're like-minded like us then.
Right. Well, there's also a rumor that I absolutely love that every year on October 30th, the castle appears exactly as it did when it was first built. Can you imagine that?
Yes, I can.
That would be so cool. So Brian R. shared his experience on Clinton Road on the Weird New Jersey website that's totally different from anything else that I've mentioned so far. He said that one time he and a bunch of friends were in the woods when they saw two completely white figures. And they were living people. They were not ghosts, but they were completely white, including their hair. So Brian said that their sighting was what started the idea that there was an albino village in the woods. So there's a lot of rumors and myths and legends swirling around about Clinton Road. But if you remember, in the beginning, I had mentioned the old Clinton Ironworks, and I had said that the furnace would come into play a little bit later, the ruins of the furnace. Well, for years, rumors swirled that there was a Druidic temple in the woods, and that Druids had done all kinds of rituals on Clinton Road. When people stumbled upon the massive stone circle in the woods, it's pretty easy to see why they would think that, because it's dozens of tall, upright stones, and they're connected by stone arches, and it looks exactly like a mini Stonehenge.
It does look exactly like a mini Stonehenge. I was looking at the picture of it, and it's like, this thing's incredible.
I know. And can you imagine coming across it at night for the first time?
No, that would be a little bit too much.
You think so?
Well, you just don't see something like that.
Not in the middle of the woods like that.
No.
Well, it turns out that this Druidic temple is just the crumbled ruins of the old ironworks smelter. But if you didn't know that, and you came upon it like you said, first you would assume it's much, much, much older, and that it was, had something to do with Stonehenge and Druids, and it's just really cool. So, Clinton Road doesn't just have ghosts and rumors of unsavory human behavior. There are also rumors of aliens, the Jersey Devil, and hellhounds. And Wes is going to get into all of that after this quick break. Hey, did you know? Universities get good deals all the time. Like the time Harvard purchased a copy of the Magna Carta from a London bookseller in 1946 for $27.50. The copy, which wasn't in the best shape, sat in the Harvard archives untouched and unseen for decades. Recently, scholars David Carpenter and Nicholas Vincent figured out that the Harvard copy is actually extremely rare. It is one of only 7 copies that still exist that were signed by Edward I and were issued in the year 1300, just 85 years after the original charter. Considering a copy from 1297 just went for $21.3 million at auction, Harvard got a pretty good deal in 1946. Who'da thunk it?
All right, we're back from the break, so let's pick up where Beth left off. Beth had mentioned before the break that people have seen UFOs on Clinton Road. There are 3 different UFO sightings on the Weird New Jersey website. But before I get into those, I want to mention that there were several photographs of a UFO taken in Passaic, New Jersey in 1952 that you've definitely all seen. Although it wasn't the actual photo used for Fox Mulder's I Want to Believe poster on the X-Files, it is one of the most commonly used images that is now used in the recreations of the X-Files poster because it's so similar. So Fox Mulder's poster has the dome-shaped flying saucer over some trees. The Passaic UFO is flying over some power lines and some trees. So if you go online and take a look at the pictures, you'll see exactly what I mean. But with that said, let's head to the town of Passaic, which is about 30 miles from West Milford, but they're both part of Passaic County. The series of photos show a classic dome dish-shaped flying saucer. And like I said, in one picture, the craft is hovering over the power lines and trees. 2 men, 28-year-old John H. Riley and his friend George J. Stock, said that the craft was flying southeast at a leisurely pace before it hovered directly over Stock's house. Riley also said the 30-foot craft was so near it could have been hit with a rifle. Both men were interviewed by the Air Force, and they took the sighting very seriously. On the other hand, skeptics claim that the UFO was really just a picture of a lady's straw hat. Now, to be fair, it does look like a lady's straw hat, but that doesn't explain how the 2 men could fake the picture back in 1952. There isn't any visible wires, and if they just threw it up into the air, the chances of them being able to capture it at a level angle like that are pretty slim. So, Passaic County has had a long history of UFO sightings, and Clinton Road in West Milford is no exception. Steve posted the following. I know you guys get a lot of stories, some true, others a little fabricated. But what I saw on Clinton Road one night was, in my eyes, a UFO. After we went around Dead Man's Curve, we suddenly saw a huge flash in the sky and a triangular disc. This thing was damn big in the sky and was hovering over the trees about 250 feet in the air. My friends and I always said we'd pull over if we saw a UFO, but we were too scared. After about 5 minutes, it disappeared and we took off. Sean P. added, I too have seen a UFO on Clinton Road. It was mad low in the sky and was so big that it looked like it could fit a small army in it. Then, in the blink of an eye, it was gone. And Jay Radicals shared, we were at Clinton Road one night. As we went further, we saw lights, hundreds of them, on both sides of the woods, blue ones, red ones, white ones. We got so freaked out. As we went 75 miles per hour on this 35-mile-per-hour road, the lights would just keep up with us. If we stopped in the middle of the road, they would stay there on each side. Suddenly, they vanished. A creature that might be the Jersey Devil, or at least some sort of wolf creature, has been spotted on Clinton Road numerous times also. According to the Sanctuary blog, drivers have reportedly seen a huge dog-like creature covered in short fur and open wounds, jump in front of their car. In some cases, the creature has even chased the vehicle for several miles. It's said to have very bright yellow or red eyes. Now, the reason some people wonder if it's the Jersey Devil is because at times it seems to float in the air as if it has wings. A poster named Jessica had this to say on the Weird New Jersey site about checking out a dirt road off of Clinton Road. Nothing was around except for dense woods. It felt very eerie, and the "trespassers will be shot on sight" sign did not ease my mind. That's when I noticed something walking towards our car. All 8 of us saw the same thing, an animal of some sort. We went 60 down this road with this animal on our back. Finally, we got back on Clinton Road and got pulled over by a cop, and the animal disappeared. Now, the thing is that back in the 1970s, over 1,500 zoo animals, including some exotic ones, did live in West Milford. In 1972, Warner Brothers chose West Milford as the site for their jungle habitat amusement park. By November of that year, 500,000 visitors had come to see the peacocks, baboons, camels, elephants, llamas, giraffes, African lions, and Siberian tigers. The park had 2 top attractions: a drive-through safari where people could slowly drive through the enclosures where the animals were free to climb on the cars. And there was also a walk-through section that included a petting zoo, camel and elephant rides, a dolphin show, a reptile house, and all the usual food and souvenir shops. There were also performances by all the beloved Warner Brother characters, like Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, Daffy Duck, Yosemite Sam, Tweety and Sylvester, Foghorn Leghorn, Wile E. Coyote, and the Roadrunner.
All the good ones.
And it's funny, as I was doing this story, it reminded me that we were talking a couple episodes ago, and I was talking about the monkeys jumping on the cars and ripping off the antennas and things. Park Safari was just like this.
Mm-hmm.
And finally they smartened up because, well, cars were getting torn apart.
Right.
But back to our story. By 1976, the park was in such financial trouble, and the local residents were so against a planned expansion that Warner Brothers shut it down. In the 4 years it was in operation, the Jungle Habitat theme park also had some issues. For example, in October of 1972, one visitor to the safari park was actually attacked by a lion. In November, 2 wolves escaped their enclosures, but were reportedly caught before they got off the property.
Or were they? I mean, if people are seeing a wolf-like creature out in the woods, maybe they didn't catch the wolves that disappeared.
Well, that's quite possible. In December, famous TV personality Jack Parr was roughhousing with a 6-month-old tiger cub while filming a segment for TV when he was badly cut. Then in July of 74, a woman was actually bitten by a baby African elephant that had grabbed her arm on the other side of the enclosure. She sued the park for $200,000. And then worst of all, for Warner Brothers, after the park closed in 1976, several of the animals couldn't be sent to other zoos because they had all somehow contracted tuberculosis and had to be euthanized.
I've never heard of such a thing. Animals get tuberculosis?
I guess so. I've never heard of such a thing, too.
Huh.
That's pretty sad. So it didn't take long before people began reporting other strange animals hiding out along Clinton Road. Some are said to be more ghost-like than solid. It's as if the spirits of the animals that were euthanized there migrated to Clinton Road, according to Ranker.com. There have been reports of exotic animals kind of materializing and then disappearing. But the living animals that have been spotted are just as unnerving, since some of them appear to be hybrids of different animals. And then there's the hellhound. According to folklore.usc.edu, people have also seen a giant black dog with glowing red eyes that roams up and down Clinton Road. It's said that if you get too close to this black dog, it will ram into the side of your car before it just vanishes into thin air. If this happens to you, you know your own death is just around the corner. Some stories have even gone around that a portal to hell must be somewhere on Clinton Road because this hellhound is seen so often. There have also been rumors for decades that the New Jersey mob used Clinton Road as a dumping ground. A poster named Bob E. shared his experience on Weird New Jersey. He said, "I've had many weird experiences up on Clinton Road. I was coming home one night with a friend, and we approached the curve located in the middle of Clinton Road. There, lying in the road, was someone in a body bag. The blood could be seen on the bag. I put the car in reverse and went back the way I came. We called the police. They found nothing. No blood, no body, no trace of anyone." Now, you might think that Bob may have misinterpreted what he saw. But considering the next story is 100% confirmed true, it makes you wonder if Bob actually did see what he said he saw. In May of 1983, a man was riding his bike on Clinton Road when a massive bird flew out in front of him. He skidded to a stop and watched as a couple more of these huge birds, which he recognized right away were vultures, came flying out of the woods. Curious, he got off his bike and walked a few feet into the woods. There was a bag sitting there, and when he started to open it and realized it contained a human head, he dropped it and ran back to his bike and flagged down a passing car. An autopsy of the body revealed that the man had been murdered, but the fact that his internal organs had shrunk and he had ice crystals in his blood indicated that he had been stored in a freezer for quite a while before being dumped on Clinton Road. The victim was Daniel Deppner, and he had been killed by the notorious mobster Richard the Iceman Kuklinski. Kuklinski is sometimes referred to as a serial killer because he seems to have murdered people who weren't on any mob hit list in addition to all the other mobsters that he killed. Some estimates say that he may have murdered as many as 250 people over his 40-year career. His calling card, if you will, was to put his victims' bodies in a freezer for up to a year because it made it harder for police to connect him to the crimes. According to PMRDblogspot.com, in 1983, Kuklinski was living in Highland Lakes in Vernon Township, which is about 18 miles from West Milford. He was spending a lot of time with these two guys named Gary Smith and Daniel Deppner. But at some point, Kuklinski suspected that Smith was going to rat him out, so he convinced Deppner to help him murder Smith. The three men went to a hotel in North Bergen, and Kuklinski laced the hamburger Smith was eating with cyanide. Then, Deppner strangled Smith to make sure that the job was done. The two men then stuffed Smith's body under the hotel bed, where he wasn't discovered until December of 1982. Meanwhile, Kuklinski was becoming increasingly suspicious of Deppner and worried that now he would rat him out. Kuklinski used the same cyanide hamburger trick on Deppner and then kept his body in a freezer until May of 1983, when he brought him out to Clinton Road and then dumped his body in the woods. So, Clinton Road has cryptids, satanic cults, UFOs, and mob murders. But since we started the episode off with a ghost story, the one about the little ghost boy who returned your quarters, we figured we'd end with the other ghost stories from Clinton Road. RoadrunnerTravel.com talks about the many sightings of ghostly headlights that seem to appear behind motorists with no explanation. These phantom lights get closer and closer until the driver realizes that it's a truck barreling down the winding road behind them. As they try to pick up speed on the treacherous road, this truck not only keeps up, but actually seems to gain on them, as if it's trying to run them off the road. Then, just as the panicking driver thinks that they're going to crash, the phantom truck just vanishes. Other people have reported that on foggy nights, a black van has appeared alongside them. The van travels down the wrong side of the road until it passes on them, and as soon as it pulls back over in front of them, it seems to just disappear. There's also stories of a third phantom vehicle, only this one seems to be heading towards the drivers. They claim that they can see headlights from very far away, and they seem to be getting closer. But when they'd expect to finally see another vehicle come into view, the headlights just vanish. And you can't have a dark wooded road without a phantom hitchhiker.
Of course not. I knew there had to be a phantom hitchhiker.
Well, I can guarantee this one isn't Michael Landon from Highway to Heaven.
No, I would guess not.
Allegedly, drivers have noticed a young lady standing on the side of the road with her thumb out asking for a ride. As they slow down, her apparition slowly fades away. Still others claim that her story involves just not her ghost, but the apparition of her car as well. The legend is that this young lady was racing her blue Camaro down Clinton Road when she lost control around one of the sharp curves and struck a cement divider. The impact instantly killed her. If you're driving down the road yourself and tell the girl's story to whoever is with you, the chances are you will either see the girl's apparition or you might see her blue Camaro go speeding past you. And finally, there is the story of the Phantom Park Rangers, which was shared on Weird New Jersey by someone who chose to remain anonymous. They said that one night a group of people decided to camp up near Terrace Pond near Cross Castle. It was a great swimming spot, and they were excited to be there. Around 1 a.m., they were approached by 2 park rangers who were concerned about the campfire the group had built and that they were drinking. But the rangers were friendly, and they assured the group that they weren't going to ticket them and that where they had parked their cars for the night was okay. The following morning, the group packed up and then went to their cars, only to find tickets on all of their windshields from both the West Milford Police and the watershed authorities. In fact, the officers were just leaving, so the group asked them why they were getting tickets when the park rangers, the night before, had told them they were okay and it wasn't a problem. The officers were totally skeptical and asked the group what these rangers looked like. When the group described their uniforms, the watershed authorities laughed and said that not only were there no rangers in the park, but that the group had described ranger uniforms from the 1930s. So what's happening on Clinton Road? Is it truly a hot spot for paranormal activity? Or is it a place shrouded in such rumor and legend that people misidentify what they're seeing because they already know all the stories and are expecting to see something weird? Could it all just be the power of suggestion? The Spartan Independent ran an article in Clinton Road in 2024 in which a longtime Clinton Road resident named Kimberly Marquez shared her take on the phantom vehicles on the road. She said that in her 30 years of living on the road, she's encountered eerie headlights twice, but they weren't enough to scare her off. Her husband said that in his experience, a lot of the time, it's just groups of kids being kids. They make noises and run around trying to scare each other. He also shared about one time when he was driving home at night and saw 20 pairs of eyes staring back at him. He stopped the car to get a better look and realized that it was a large group of deer.
What a letdown.
I know. The power of suggestion might have a lot to do with the mystique of Clinton Road. Over the years, the rumors, the legends have multiplied and branched out into all kinds of variations or versions. So it's hard to pinpoint when any of these stories even began. But I can say that with the release of the horror movie Clinton Road in 2019, the legends of the road became even more well-known than ever before, reaching audiences far beyond the West Milford locals who grew up hearing about it. So, I think that it would be interesting to see what new legends have come up that didn't exist before the movie came out.
That would be interesting to see if now all of a sudden people are seeing things that only happened in the movie and haven't happened prior to that.
Yeah, it would be an interesting study. I'm sure they would go up a little bit because, people are on edge, probably driving the road at night. They see something, they misidentify it, they get freaked out. But who knows? Like I always say, as people talk about these things, it's quite possible, if you believe in tulpas, that one could have been created, or several of them.
Sounds like several could have been created on that road. Yeah. But, it is interesting that this one little stretch of road would have so many legends around it for so long. Like, why is there so many different stories about that road?
Well, yeah, and the thing is, where we live, there's been lots of accidents, but you'd never hear about any ghostly things going on, people seeing anything. And I myself have been to a lot of those accidents because I was an EMT for many, many years. And the funny thing is, a lot of times when I'd be passing by these, I'd kind of look, see if I saw anything, just knowing what had happened there. So, yeah, I don't know. You would think there would be quite a few of these stories all over the country where you have covered bridges, sharp, windy roads, like New York and Vermont.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Well, there are a lot in Pennsylvania, but they have a lot to do with Gettysburg.
Right. I remember when I was a kid, my dentist's office was on a road called All Angels Hill Road. And my mother used to talk all the time about how much she hated that road and she didn't like taking me to the dentist. And in my mind, it had something to do with the name of the road, All Angels Hill Road. That's a weird name.
So you know what I would think right away? Well, at my age, not probably when I was little, that it was probably a children's cemetery.
I don't know. And her explanation was that there were a lot of accidents on that road. And then that solidified in my head, if it's All Angels Hill Road and there's all these accidents there, that's where they all go. That's where all the angels go.
Right.
And so in my head, I'd already built it up as this haunted road. But when I got older and asked about it, nobody had heard any weird stories about that road.
Interesting. Well, I don't know. I don't want to downplay any of these people's experiences because what they say they've seen, they seem to believe. And I have not been there, so I can't say either way.
I agree with you.
But I believe people are seeing something, but whether it's paranormal or supernatural, I have no clue.
Until we go there.
Yeah, on our way to Pennsylvania.
We're taking a detour.
Well, if you'd happen to want to know more about Clinton Road, check out our show notes. Because there's quite a bit there that we probably didn't get to.
Yeah, there's all kinds of other things in West Milford historically that we didn't touch on at all because it wasn't directly on Clinton Road, but it's nearby and interesting.
Yeah, you just never know. Maybe some of that had bled over to Clinton Road.
Right.
Well, Beth, that about wraps it up for this episode, I'd say.
Yes.
Join us again next week for an all-new episode of Where Our Minds Wander.
See you then. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to traveling with you again to the places where our minds wander.
If you like what you heard, please take a moment and provide us with a 5-star rating and a comment on your favorite listening platform. It really helps us move up the list and become more visible on the podcast charts so new people can find us.
And thank you all for your continued support.
See you next week for an all-new episode.